Good evening. There's still some seats in the front. This is quite a crowd. Good evening. My name is Catherine Chase, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. It is my pleasure to welcome you this evening to Unitarian Universalist Church of Brunswick. We acknowledge that we gather and live as a community on unceded lands of the Wabanaki Nations, which we now call Brunswick, Maine. We are glad to welcome you this evening to this service of worship as we celebrate Christmas Eve together. This is our traditional Christmas Eve service, led by our minister, Reverend Dr. Kharma Amos, featuring the UUCB choir under the direction of Heidi Neufeld, and accompanied by Derek Hertzer. In the interest of safety, please note that there are 3 exits to this building: the one you came in, the one immediately next to the AV booth on your right, and one at the far end of the sanctuary through the religious exploration space. As we get started, please silence your mobile devices. Good evening, welcome again, and it's really good to have you all here. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tobin Cooney-Callion, and I serve as your Director of Religious Exploration. Our chalice lighting words are based on the words of Alex Klingenberg. We come together tonight to remember the history, the mystery, or the myth that says hope was born in the form of a baby named Jesus. What is so compelling about the story of Jesus' birth, his life, his love? Why has this story reached across the ages to us when so many have faded into history? Jesus embodies the best of what humanity can be: compassionate, humble, brave, and mortal. Jesus asks us to make the most of our life, to create joy where there is pain, to care for the poor and question the powerful. And perhaps most importantly, to question the purpose of our own lives. What light can we be in the darkness? What will we leave in our wake? In whom will the best of us be reborn? Tonight, on the eve of Christmas, we light our chalice to honor the significance that one person can have and revel together in the joy of possibilities.
Good evening again. My name is Kharma Amos, and I'm honored to serve as the minister of this congregation and to welcome you again to our celebration of Christmas Eve. Tonight, given the context of the world we live in, it feels necessary to say a few words of caution about the story we tell and the songs that we sing tonight. It also feels weird to say that we might need to stop for a warning before we carry on with our Christmas traditions. It reminds me of the time Annie Dillard said that if we really took to heart the radical nature of the Jesus story, we would always come to church wearing our crash helmets. Because the story is such a story that turns the world as we know upside down. She says that this is still the case all these years later. For example, the song that Mary sings when she learns about her pregnancy, what we call the Magnificat, is a song about political and spiritual revolution. It's a song about the empires and kingdoms of the world falling, of the rich having to make radical adjustments as the world's resources are redistributed more equitably. It is a song about the cessation of war and domination, so that peace, true peace, just peace, may come and be sustained on earth. There are storylines in the Christmas tale that may be quite vivid for us this year. We're going to hear about place names: Bethlehem, Nazareth, Israel, Place names that correlate to current places in the news, the names of cities and towns, and an entire region of the world currently in a state of war. A complicated, devastating, and seemingly impossible situation. And so our hearts are likely breaking with the people of Gaza and Israel. And it feels important to note that the Israel we sing about is not the state of Israel, not the government of Israel. And while we're on the topic of language, if you have sung Christmas carols your whole life and know them by heart, you might find that the words are slightly different in our hymnals or on the screens. Please don't be concerned about that. We encourage you to sing with feeling. You will not be graded for lyrical accuracy. And if someone next to you sings a different kind of word, that's okay. We are able, and we need practice so that we can remain able to hold complexity and pluralism and multiple truths at the same time, even if they exist in tension. This is a night of mystery, when we are given an opportunity to experience something the ancient sages taught us about the power of storytelling. Storytelling that reaches beyond the time and setting of the story to touch on deeper and more timeless truths. In many an indigenous culture, a story concludes with a phrase something like this: "I don't know if it happened that way, but I know the story is true." There's something at the heart of the Christmas story that is not dependent upon its details. It's a story about Jesus, for sure, but it's also a story about us. It is a story about hope. It is a story about the world as it's been known, as we experience it now, and as we desperately long to see it transformed. So welcome, friends, new and old. We are delighted that you have chosen to join this community for our Christmas celebration. Let us open our hearts to the spirit of life and to one another, that love and light might touch our hearts both tenderly and fiercely, that we might be transformed again by mystery and miracle. Would you rise as you are able, in body or in spirit, and sing our opening carol, "O Come All Ye Faithful," which will begin with the Latin. Let us sing together.
Amen. We were touched when Tobin asked us to share some reflections on how our family experiences the mystery and wonder of the winter season. Touched as a family because we're still relatively new to UUCB, and I was also particularly touched because it reminded me that I'm actually part of a family now with its own growing traditions. Nate and I met in 2020, and this is only our second married Christmas together, but it's our fourth Christmas overall. And along with Sebastian, Nate's son, who's with his mom tonight, we've endeavored to set down new holiday traditions each year. We have an extravagant family gingerbread house, one that expanded this year into a full-on gingerbread complex. We've begun hosting an annual neighborhood bonfire to celebrate the solstice. We revisit stories about Icelandic Christmas trolls before bed. And this year, we supported our newfound community here, making soup and dog biscuits together as a family for the holiday fair. It seemed especially fitting that Tobin asked us to light the Advent wreath at tonight's service because one of the other new ways in which we've attempted to honor the season this year was with our own Advent wreath at home. Neither Nate nor I were raised with a tradition of an Advent wreath and candles. But we knew that this year we were really craving something in our lives that could help us stay tethered to the depth and the sacredness of the season, even as we continued to engage with all of the hustle and bustle, sometimes joyfully, other times begrudgingly, as we knew that we would. We know that this dark time is so holy and so precious, and also that it's really quite fleeting. The days are already lengthening again. I'm an acupuncturist, and in Chinese medicine, this time of year is referred to as the yin within yin, the translation being that it's time for quiet, for introspection, and for sitting still with the deep unknown, however comfortable or uncomfortable that may be. A colleague of mine recently phrased it beautifully in honor of the solstice, saying, "Am I willing, at least for this moment, to not know, in service to the more powerful knowing that I trust can be born only from the deep unknown?" The way the world is set up with the general glorification of busyness and productivity, it can be difficult to feel the draw of these long nights on our animal bodies. So at our house this year, we had the wreath and we lit the candles each night, drawing ourselves into the quiet by the tether that we had purposefully set. And watching as we did so, the resistance we had, even to this smallest of rituals. Noticing how many nights we felt pulled to act in service to our never-ending to-do lists, rather than to sit for a moment in the sacred. But we have sat, and we have lit the candles each night, making the time and creating the space, however imperfectly, so that our animal bodies and the spiritual bodies that reside within them have a fighting chance to touch the mystery.
Was to certain These are familiar words from the second chapter of Luke. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration and was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, in the city of David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and the family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged, and who was expecting a child. When they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son, wrapped him in bands of cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them at the inn.
Now there were in the same country shepherds living out in the fields, keeping an eye on their flock by night. And behold, an angel of the Lord appeared and stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone all around them, and they were sore afraid. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born unto you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign to you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling cloths, lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill to all." So it was, when the angels had gone away from them into heaven, that the shepherds said to one another, "Let us now go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has come to pass, which the Lord has made known to us." And they came with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. And when they had seen him, they made widely known that which had been told to them by the angels concerning this child. And all those who heard it marveled at those things which were told to them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. Then the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all things that they had heard and seen, as it was told to them.
Would you rise and body your spirit as you're able as we sing together, "It Came Upon the Midnight Clear"?
Thank Good evening. I'm sure most of you recognize the title of the reading as it's been made into a carol, and as I say, most familiar to most of you. However, you may be less familiar with all of the verses of the Longfellow poem from which it was taken and the background of which it was written. It was December, Christmas, 1863, a time of war in this country, of great loss and sadness, and that was true no less for Longfellow himself. His beloved second wife had died just 2 years earlier, and his eldest son, who had joined the army against his wishes, had just been seriously wounded a month before. It's in that spirit that Longfellow wrote these words. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black, accursed mouth, the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the hearthstones of a continent and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair, I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men.
I wanted to have that Longfellow poem read tonight because it seems so very applicable this year. Longfellow is, of course, a beloved character around here and around the world too, but especially here. Born in Portland, he graduated and later taught at Bowdoin College before going on to teach at Harvard. He played his flute for this congregation, and the Bible he donated to us still occupies a place of honor, something of a UU rarity, in the back of the sanctuary. But I don't want to recall Longfellow's words tonight just to garner favor with the home crowd. Rather, because in his life, and in this poem specifically, he grapples with what it means to celebrate Christmas in a time of war, which is something we are grappling with in Christmas of 2023. Never one to shy away from complicated subjects or paradox, Longfellow and his contemporaries wanted to explore the depths and nuances of human experience and to find their meaning. We are the inheritors of that legacy, that desire to root our reflections and our theologies in the actual experiences that define our lives. And this year, people around the world are celebrating Christmas in a time of multiple wars. One war in particular that we cannot disentangle from the story of Jesus' birth or the context for his life story. In the 2022 movie, I Heard the Bells, Longfellow's story of writing this poem is told. It recounts some of that grief that David mentioned, that dominated Longfellow's life. On top of losing his first wife and stillborn child, Longfellow's beloved wife, Fanny Appleton, died in a tragic fire, leaving him and his 5 remaining children bereft, just as the U.S. Civil War was coming into full swing. And she made him promise not to let the war take their sons. Longfellow stopped writing altogether after her death, believing that his poetry, his pet name for her, had died with her. He did not start writing again until after his son Charlie returned wounded from the war. And Charlie encouraged him to write, saying that writing was his vocation, his specific call, his contribution to the world. Henry wrote this famous poem, as David mentioned, in Christmas of 1863. The movie's depiction is quite dramatic about how tormented he was by this project of trying to write about peace on earth in a time of war. And in the film, he stops the poem after the final verse, or after the verse where he says, "And in despair, I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth," I said. For hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Can you feel some of that angst? Many Christians in the world and others from a variety of spiritual and secular traditions that celebrate Christmas may be feeling similarly this year. Reverend Dr. Mitri Raheb, the pastor of the Evangelical Lutheran Christmas Church in Bethlehem, reports that because of the war on Gaza and as a sign of mourning, the thousands of civilians murdered there, the churches in the Holy Land have canceled Christmas festivities this year. I can only imagine what it must feel like in this time, in that place. But I can and do feel sympathy and empathy and connection with those who do not know how to celebrate Christmas in devastating circumstances. Like Longfellow, those who cannot escape the realization that peace on earth we proclaim is mocked by the current state of things. We might be feeling uncomfortable, achy, hollow, angry even, or just deeply, deeply troubled. It is precisely in this situation, however, that the sacred edge of the Christmas story becomes sharp enough to cut through all the nonsense that we have built up around it. The Christmas story, as softly as we might like to blur the edges, is not a tame story. And in fact, the gift of Christmas arrives first, not to well-dressed people in warm shelters singing songs of joy, but to poor, unsheltered refugees who have been told by the empirical government to flee their homes in search of an elusive safety, and who have to stop their journey because, ready or not, the baby was coming. And so they give birth in a stable. And the audience for this miraculous event, this common, messy, laborious birth of a baby, the audience wasn't folks with season tickets to the Met. It was shepherds in a field. Think migrant farm workers for a close parallel. The hope that was born tonight, in the common ways that hope is always born, was hope designed to help the poor, to love the discounted and the rejected into wholeness and into community, and to revolutionize the world in the ways of love and peace, not violence, not domination. As the followers of Jesus imagined his birth, this is the story they told. It was a story about him, and also a story about them and their birth as gifts to the world, as people who could likewise embody divine love if they wanted, if they could develop the courage and encourage one another. It seems like a good year to remember that the message of Christmas centered the experiences of broken-hearted people. People unsure what to do next who had probably already tried their best ideas. Christmas isn't intended to be some magical, otherworldly experience that takes us out of this one and transports us to a fantasy land of candy and joy. Christmas is a story about the ways in which love sometimes gets real, right in the messy middle of our lives, even with all of its tragedies and yet unrealized potential. Before he wrote the final stanza of the poem, Longfellow was caught in the morass of theological questions that most people of faith find ourselves in at some point, wondering how, if there is a God who cares and could make things otherwise, evil persists. For Longfellow, it was the reality of personal loss and pain, alongside the brutal injustices of racialized human slavery. For us, it probably also includes personal pain, alongside countless realities in our world that we may find it impossible to make sense of, like the situation in the so-called Holy Land today. Longfellow's son, Charlie, at one point told him God must be dead for things to be the way they were. And in the depths of his despair, Henry Longfellow felt the same way. We probably know what it feels like. It feels like hopelessness and resignation. The good news, and ultimately this is a story of good news, the good news is that the message of Christmas is intended for broken-hearted people just like this, just like us. Longfellow had something of a mystical experience as he completed the poem. The final stanza came along with the arrival of hope as he heard the bells on Christmas Day, the bells that his beloved Fanny had called the hopeful voice of the church. He heard the bells ring and ring again, and this final refrain came. Then pealed the bells, more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. The mystery of Christmas, even for Unitarians like Longfellow, was about divine love made flesh, about hope with skin, about the ways in which each of our lives can be a vessel for those things we hold most sacred. The justice we long for is ours to embody. The love we seek, it's ours to make. Other hearts and loves and hands have shown us what it is to live life well in service to humanity and in alignment with the creative and healing powers of the universe. That's the story of Jesus. Christmas is about incarnation, about the ways we will incarnate sacred love in our own human experience, in our loving and just relationships with others, including, always including, the marginalized and oppressed. I don't know about you, but I think there is a need for that kind of thing in the world today. Maybe more than ever. We need a little Christmas now, as the popular song goes. When we read the news today about the war, the suffering, the poverty and despair that is so prevalent around the world, we might find our own candles of hope flickering low. From time to time, we might feel as if they have been extinguished. Fear not, as the angels say, for these are the conditions which make possible the promise of Christmas, of divine love, vulnerable and tender love, crying out in human form, insisting on a new way. Every child of every color, Gender, sexuality, religion, nationality, ability, each can become love, hope, healing presence, innovative spark. And one of the things we need to do at Christmas is to nurture that divine spark in ourselves and in one another, to tend the light, to keep it protected, to illumine the way to a better, more peaceful and just world for every child everywhere. May love and peace be born anew in us this night and every night. Merry Christmas. Would you rise in body or spirit as you're able as we sing our next carol, What Child Is This?
For so the children come, adapted from that by Sophia Lyon-Foss. For so the children come, and so they have been coming, always in the same way they come, created by our seeds, our souls, our love. No angel heralds their beginning, no prophets predict the future courses. No wise men see a star to show where to find the babe that will save humankind. Yet each night a child is born is a holy night. Parents sitting beside their children's cribs feel glory in the sight of a new life beginning. They ask, where and how will this new life end, or will it ever end? Each night a child is born is a holy night, a time for singing, a time for wondering, a time for worshiping.
One of our traditions here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Brunswick is to light candles in honor of the babies that have been born to the families of our congregation. And so we will do that again this year.
Our first baby is Hannah Julia Dahmer, born December 31st, 2022. Born to parents Derek and Marianne Dahmer. Grandparents are Julie and Doug Dahmer.
And we have Roger Julene, born January 6, 2023. Roger's parents are Molly Julene and Bob Zager, and his grandfather is David Julene.
That precious wonder is Wesley Roland Bernier, born December 1st, 2023. Grandparents are Stephanie and Ren Bernier.
Doesn't that make you want to stand up and sing Joy to the World? All right, would you do that? Please rise as you're able and body your spirit.
This is the time in our service when we would like to receive your offerings. The offerings collected tonight will go to the minister's discretionary fund used to assist individuals in our community with immediate needs such as assistance with housing, heating, food, medicine, and other necessities. Please give as generously as you are able. And if you will say together the congregational response, may these offerings sustain and grow the work of this church, weaving a tapestry of love and action. Thank you.
This is a reading called Simple, a Christmas poem by Reverend M. Jade Kaiser from the book Enfleshed. Maybe it's as simple and as miraculous as this. Everything that makes life sacred is already here. Wailing with joy and want, asking to be cherished and protected, nurtured in a community queer and determined. What if the whole earth, the entire loving cosmos, reaching for life and flourishing, is just asking us to stop looking elsewhere for what has always been within reach, asking us to pay attention to this holy place, and to all these sources of hope woven through, and all this beauty and gentle, wise power completely at home in your flesh and mine and ours.
This past Monday, I was at home in the dark. I bet most of you were as well, with the storm and the power. And I noticed when one of the little pre-programmed lights, candles in my window came on, it shocked me a little bit. It's like, what happened? And it reminded me, all the metaphors of this season of dark and light. But what a difference one tiny light can make. We have battery-operated candles this year for two reasons that I want to mention because it's worth mentioning. One, to minimize the risk of burning and wax everywhere, and the other, to increase our inclusivity, for it is difficult, if not impossible, for those who use oxygen to be in a whole room full of live flames. So these lights will certainly work for us. Let's remember, we each have a light to shine. And even when ours is flickering low, or we think it's been put out, we can blow a little. Just to let one light shine is sometimes enough. If you would rise as you're able with your candles, we'll light them. Well, maybe someone in the booth can turn the rest of our lights out. And I want to invite you to first turn around and look at each other. Show your light, share your light. And now let us sing together. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds pray at the side, glory stream from heaven afar, heavenly hosts sing hallelujah, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, child of God, lost your light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in I'll invite you to be seated. Only because the choir's going to sing the benediction. Tonight in this community, we have shared stories and sung carols, opened our hearts to the beauty of music. Tonight we have turned to one another, we have shared our lights. We have dared to hear a message of hope spoken once again against the challenge of the world. It is time now to depart, to go forward to our lives and to the world. May joy be your companion, whether you are alone or with others. May love be your strength, and may the gift of community dwell in your heart. For here in this place, you will be welcome always, whenever you choose, whenever you need. And now let's have the choir sing us out.
Need your help.
Go, go, tell it, go. Tell it on the mountain, go. Go tell it, Jesus the Christ is born. Go, go, tell it, go. Go, tell it on the mountain, go. Go, tell it that Jesus Christ is born. Go, go, tell it, go. Go, tell it on the mountain, go. Go, tell it that Jesus Christ is born.
Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, that Jesus Christ is born. Tell it on the mountain, tell it on the mountain, tell it on the mountain, tell it on the mountain. When I was a sinner, I prayed all the night and day. I asked the Lord to tell me, and He showed me the way. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, that Jesus Christ is born. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, that Jesus Christ is born. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, Jesus Christ is born. Jesus Christ is born.
Merry Christmas. Go in peace.